Club has organized 3 episodes of the Talk Talk Show to date, and now we present before you all yet another interesting episode, the 4th episode of the Talk Talk Show. So hold on to your breath as we present before you all our first speaker of this afternoon, Kur Dipankar, who will be speaking on the topic virtual reality.
Thank you, Sharaf. Good afternoon, respected principal sir and the audience. So, it's me, Goel Dipankar, and today I'll be speaking on the topic virtual reality. So, before starting any topic, we think, what is this topic all about? So, so if I give you a Wikipedia answer, so it is virtual reality (VR) is a simulated experience that can be similar or to completely different from the real world. So, I can understand some of you for this, like this definition might have gone like this. So, before knowing any or defining any topic, we practically observe it by our naked eyes. So, let's observe it by this VR box. So, this object is known as VR box, a virtual reality box. So now, I would like to request our principal sir to wear this and experience the virtual reality.
Yeah, when I select some student here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, anybody who would like to volunteer? Anyone from the audience, please?
Yeah, head girl. There is head girl.
Here, sir.
Go and enjoy the virtual reality. Come fast. I'm telling you how it is.
So now, there will be a video playing on the screen, and the same video will be playing in this VR box. So let's see what is the difference between seeing it on an MP4 player and on this VR mode.
Now it is yes.
Yeah.
What happened here?
No, it's okay, sir.
You are getting scared?
No, sir.
Ah.
No, sir.
So,
See, sir.
hmm? Good? You are about to fall.
No, yes.
Okay, right.
So, guys, what was the difference? Seeing it on a screen, it was a simple MP4 or we can say a YouTube video. But what our head girl was experiencing, that was a VR mode, a virtual reality mode, where with that VR box she could experience the audio and the visuals. That made her seem like she's into that roller coaster that we were seeing on the screen. So, now when we talk on any topic, a simple question that arises in our mind is, when was it created, how was it created, and who was the creator? So the person that you can see on the screen, his name is Gerald Lanier. So this guy founded the modern day virtual reality, the term virtual reality. So, but the term reality, the virtual reality was not founded like by this person practically. It is a very old concept. Let's get back to 1800s when the physical photography, the term physical photography in a paper format was introduced. When the scientist had experience of two glasses combining and keeping a flower vase in between, where they developed the virtual picture of the vase in two different mirrors. That was the starting of virtual reality. So let's get back to this person. Why is this person important? So, do you guys remember the bird shooting game which we used to play in like our television with that plastic gun in our hand and shooting the bird in our television screen? Yes, that game was introduced by this person. He was the founder of that bird shooting game which made our childhood wonderful. So, now, what are the sectors or the branches of virtual reality? So the first, of course, it is gaming, which we all are like the main follower of gaming. So, as you can see on this the small clip, that there is a artificial car with the same VR box and a headset. So why are they? So as you know that with this VR box, we can visually and audibly we can feel the presence that we are on that particular place. So we are in that particular place. So now, with this clip, we can understand that this card helps these three gamers to visually or like to physically feel the presence in the game. Okay, let's take an example of any shooting game. Or like they have to drive a car in that game. With the VR box, they can see the presence, they can feel the presence. With the audio, they can listen the drifts, the horn of the car. And with this artificial car, they can feel the drifts and turns of the game. So the second one, if you are a video editor, you know what is green screen. So let me give you an example before explaining what is green screen. So if you are a Marvel fan, you know what Doctor Strange is. Do you remember the time ball and like the building fallings behind the person, behind the actor? Yes, that is green screen. When a video is shooted practically, but the background effect is artificial. They are not made. They are not shooted like really, but they are artificially created in the computers. This is virtual. This is green screen. And the second, if you have seen the movie Gravity, if there is a movie that if the actor has to be shown in Mars or Jupiter, that cannot be practically shooted, but the background can be created artificially. In green screen, if the visuals are created like the person is driving in the car on the moon, the background can be created on the moon by artificially. Just as you can see on my screen, the person is flying. This can be created, but the background of the universe cannot be practically shooted. This can be created by in our computers. So the third, as you can see a clip. This is from the movie Bahubali. As you can see, this movie, how it is created, this scene. This is the piece by Broken, how this movie is created, or how this clip is created through green screen. The bull, it is not a real bull. You know that a bull cannot be so fat, and a person really they cannot handle a bull. So this scene is created, artificially created. So what is the another sector? The third sector. It is VFX effects. So what is this VFX effect? If you have seen the movie Jurassic Park, where the dinosaurs they come across a car or they destroy a building. So we know that dinosaurs aren't present in today's era. So the background or the effects, it can be created artificially through VFX effects. So this is also seen from the movie Bahubali. As you can see, there are different oxes and like the bulls. The fire is on their like on. As you can see on your screen, this scene is artificially created by the editors, by the video editors. This is not a real. This is not a real video. So, as you can see, it is in a fast forward mode. This is artificially created. So, now I'll not make you guys bored, but it's not only for the entertainment industry or gaming industry. Let's get for a practical, a specific task. Green screen, or we can say virtual reality, it is important in our real life as well. If you remember the weather forecast, the person this video, the person is explaining that this is Chennai and this is Kerala. So we know that these places exist, but it cannot be shown on a globe literally. So the background is artificially created by computer graphics. So another, in schools, if you think about this corona pandemic, the small children of 5 years, 6 years, if a teacher have to show Amazon forest or any other mountain range, it can be shown through VR box. The same VR box which I gave example just now. The students, they can be experiencing the virtual reality of mountains and forest trees. This is what virtual reality is important for us in today's time. So let's wait and see what future brings to us because it will keep on developing. Thank you.
Thank you, Poor. That was very informative. And welcome to our lovely headmistress, Ms. Maya Rana. Now, moving on with our second speaker of the day, we have Anmol Gautam, who will be speaking on the topic artificial intelligence.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anmol Gautam and I am from class 11A. Artificial intelligence. Say, you just woke up and as soon as your feet touches the ground, the lights turn on. Then you proceed towards taking a shower, but you like to have a cup of coffee after you take a shower. So you contact your AI-powered assistant, let's say Alexa, and ask her to make a cup of coffee. Alexa contacts your smart fridge and voila, your coffee is ready. So what basically is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence, it is a branch of computer science that is responsible for building machines which can perform tasks that usually are performed by with the help of human intelligence. Let us try to understand this with the help of examples. For example, self-driving cars. Cars are usually driven by humans, but with the help of self-driving cars that are introduced by Tesla, now it is also done with the help of artificial intelligence. Smart assistant. Let's say you were working on a certain project and did not know the meaning of a certain word. With the help of smart assistants like Siri, Google Assistant, and Cortana, you need not search through a dictionary or go through any other book. The meaning is ready, which does save a lot of time. Facial recognition. Imagine you come to school and with the automatic sanitization, the facial recognition match your attendance. Wouldn't that be easy? Yes, it would. We use facial recognition daily in our smartphones. Maps and navigation. With the help of maps and navigation, such as Google Maps, we can search for traffic and search for location within no time. Now that we have looked at some examples of artificial intelligence, let us quickly go through the 4 types of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, AI, can be mainly divided into 4 types, namely type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. Type 1, reactive machines. So, the AI coming under this category does not have any memory. For example, the chess game that we play in our computers and mobile phones. If we humans play chess with a certain person for a long period of time, we understand the pattern in which the other person makes moves. But the computer, it cannot do so. Why? Because it lacks memory. Type 2, limited memory. As the name suggests, type 2 AI, it does have memory, but it is very limited. The example of type 2 is self-driving cars. The sensors in self-driving cars can detect when a person or any animal is in front of them. Type 3, theory of mind. This AI has just not been discovered. But if developed in the future, the machines will have the ability to understand human emotions and act necessarily. Type 4, self-awareness. This does not exist yet, like type 3 AI. But if developed, it will have a sense of self-awareness, and this is a threat to humans because humans believe that if this is developed, then it will surely take over the world. Now let us quickly go through the application unlocks. Then we go to our social media. Our social media page, it is filled with content that we enjoy. How is it selected and presented to us? Only with the help of artificial intelligence. We move on with the day and we need to go to the library, but we do not know the location. So we use Google Maps. We come home, need to send an email, but we aren't confident with our language. Therefore, we use Grammarly autocorrect system to make corrections. And as a result, we get a great response. Suddenly, the electricity bill hasn't yet been paid and needs to be paid, but the bank it is quite far away. Therefore, we use Khaati app to make the payment. At last, after a long day, we want to relax with a movie and we search for the movie on Netflix. We have a wonderful day and AI does help save the day. In healthcare, as the time is proceeding, hospitals are using AI for treatment. The automatic diagnosis and result generation is saving a lot of time and is also reducing errors, which has been accepted. In education, the use of AI in education, as I am a student, I can confidently say that it has helped me a lot. Especially during lockdown, because I was able to access to education 24/7, and also I did not need to bug the teacher every time I had a small confusion. I had access to unlimited resources, providing me with unlimited education. Pros and cons of artificial intelligence. Pros of artificial intelligence. Reduction of errors. Unlike humans, computers, they do not make any errors. For example, weather forecasting done by computers is very accurate. One of the biggest advantages of artificial intelligence is that it can take risks instead of humans. So, the risky jobs such as the diffusing of the bomb can be done by artificial intelligence powered machines, which will reduce the loss of lives. It is available 24/7. Unlike humans, machines they do not get tired, neither do they get bored. So, and it is also a one-time investment, so that the regular salary that needs to be paid to the humans, the cost of that is reduced. But this is also a disadvantage, which brings us to the cons of artificial intelligence. Unemployment. One of the biggest disadvantages of artificial intelligence is that it is snatching the job from humans. As mentioned earlier, it is a one-time investment and also does not get tired or bored. So many companies such as that of textiles and food industries are replacing humans with AI-powered machines. The only reason that they are not doing so is that AI is very expensive and not everyone can afford artificial intelligence-powered machines. The reason why many people refrain from artificial intelligence is that it is making humans lazy. As mentioned earlier, nowadays we don't even need to turn our own lights on. It is all done by artificial intelligence. No emotions. And lacking out-of-the-box thinking. Say you have assigned a job to artificial intelligence-powered machine to do a certain job, but a situation arises in which it needs to think emotionally, then the situation will go horribly wrong. Because firstly, it lacks emotions, and secondly, it cannot also think out of the box. A topic. A topic which is often raised when we talk about artificial intelligence is whether or not artificial intelligence can take over our world. For example, we humans tend to forget things that we often do not practice. For example, we do not perform calculations for 4 to 5 years. Then, there is a possibility that we will not be able to perform simple mathematics. Similarly, if we become dependent upon AI-powered robots for simple tasks, then we will be permanently dependent upon them, forcing us to develop super intelligent machines which will have the capability of taking over the world. At last, I would like to say that let us use AI as a help and not as a necessity. Thank you.
That was very astounding. Now, let's move on to our third speaker of the day, Swapnik Yadav, who will be speaking on the topic cloud computing.
Good afternoon, everyone. Did you guys understand AI well? Say and say yes, no. All of you. So let me revise again because we need the concepts of AI for understanding the cloud computing. How many of you as a kid were warned by the tea, the hot tea? Like raise your hands. Like something must have been, right? You, right? So what did you do next time when you saw the, let me not use the mic. Am I audible, everyone? So, Kuar, right?
Yep.
What did you do when you saw the hot tea next time?
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
That cup of tea,
Yeah.
it was very hot. That because and you got the bond in the hand.
Yeah.
What did you do next time if you saw the same situation?
I will not do it.
Yeah, exactly. You will not do it because that's your intelligence. And giving the same intelligence to a computer is not an artificial intelligence. So my topic is cloud computing. But before starting with this topic, we need to understand something better. Like to understand this better, we need to understand some other entity better. Like first, how does our internet work? Like most of us misunderstand internet. We think internet as a wireless entity, but it is not that. Internet is wireless only limited to your internet router and any device you use. It can be anything, phone, laptop, TVs, anything. So internet is again that router is connected to poles, a lot of poles, tons of poles, and that wire is taken from the deep oceans to the data centers which provide you the data, which provides you with the data and the internet. The second thing, which class are you guys in? Class 8, right? You must have known this word. Everyone, anyone who can answer this, like raise your hand. Don't be shy, no one will tell you anything. No, no one knows. No one knows what is a software. All that I'll tell what is it. A software is basically a set of instructions which are provided to computer by programmers. Programmers are those who create software, are provided to computers to perform a particular task, and it also helps hardware to guide how to run a task. And the next big thing we should focus on is what is a server. So to understand server, you need to know what a hard disk and what SSD basically is. I guess all of us know what a hard disk actually is, but SSD we are not familiar with it because SSD are in existence very recently. Like it's just been 8 to 9 years of their existence, and not most people are familiar with SSD. As you can see in that picture, those are SSD. Like if you see hard disk, they are very fat and they have rotating disk in it. But in SSD, there is no any disk. There are chips used, which is called chips, and they are very fast, like 10 to 20 times faster than hard disk, and which makes things easier. And in servers, like these days, most of servers like Google, IBM, Amazon, all use SSDs in the server, and the hard disks are being slowly replaced. So that is basically a server. To establish a server in your company, you need like a lot of money, lot of investment, and lot of space. Because it's obvious that you cannot store all your company's data in a single hard disk. Is it possible?
No.
No, right? It's obviously not possible. Okay, now you get the idea of you need tons of hard disks or SSD to store your data in. Where will you keep that tons of hard disks? In your table? No, right? Even if you do that, you have to look at your server like this, like table starts from here to there. Because you need a lot of hard disks, and that is not possible if you don't have a room. Like it needs a space for a room or more because like this costs a lot. Those SSD, like even for the 256 GB SSD, it costs like some $300 to $400. But the same hard disk you can get for $100 to $90. So like SSD are expensive, but when something is expensive, we obviously get good quality and good use of that. Yes. And to establish a server in company, like it is not possible. Let's take an example. You just started your own software development company, and you guys are the head of the company. And just imagine that, and you have 20 to 30 employees working there. Tell me, is possible to establish a server, spending millions on it when you can't even pay the required salary to your employee? Is it possible? No, right? And if it is not possible, then is there other way? Anyway, is there way possible? You know the answer? No? Yes, there is a way possible, and that is called cloud computing. Understanding a cloud is a bit complicated, but like it's a very simple term. It's a very basic concept. Like most of the times we ask questions to students, but today I would like to ask our principal sir. Sir, do you get updates on the iWatch?
I do get, but I don't use it.
So you don't use that? Like you get the updates.
But I don't make use of that particular updates here.
Oh, okay, all right. But all of us, I guess, we on download the new updates in the phone, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And where those updates come from? No idea. Not worry. I'm ready to explain that idea. Where it comes to? Cloud system or cloud servers are basically the everyday thing we do, but without needing a physical server to store our data in. Like physical servers are like a mess. You cannot perform anything smoothly in physical servers. Physical servers were in use like in the ancient times when they were like big computers. You know, right? First generation, second generation computer, ENIAC and UNIVAC. Those required a lot of space. But since the cloud system is here, you don't need a lot of space. Like you just need to pay some money to the data centers, and the data center will provide you with the cloud storage within seconds. You just pay, and within seconds your server is ready. And all of us have been familiar with cloud system. Like we use it every day, and we are not even aware about it. Like the everyday apps we use: Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Google Photos, Repository, Python. All these are apps are cloud based. So you guys must be wondering like, what is this guy even talking about? Cloud. It's just a white thing in the sky that appears to float, right? No, that's not the case with the computing system. In computing system, cloud system and cloud servers are different. Let's take an example again. For example, I'm an employee in a company, and I had a design ready with me, and I sent that to my boss. And my boss liked it very much, and he asked me to get the design hard copy for the tomorrow's meeting. Like that was the design for my team. But the other colleague from my team took over my PC to use my PC, and he mistakenly deleted that design from the computer. Now he came to know that design was very important for the team and for the company and for him too, because his job was in danger because of that design, right? And he starts panicking. Like kids are worrying over that. He asks everyone for the backup, but no one gets it. And when I come back to the office, like after the rest, I see everyone in panic and worrying about something. But all of a sudden, I laugh very loud and I am very cool about it. But why? What can be the reason? Because I don't like my boss, or because I don't even want to attend that meeting. It's actually not a thing to worry about. Can someone guess why I laughed or I am very cool about it? Yes, cloud system, but how? Right, you are right. I send that via Gmail, and if it is already there in Gmail, why should I worry? I can easily download from that, and I can take the hard copy of that, soft copy of that. I can keep that in a private folder, and I am never giving that PC again to my colleague. I won't repeat that mistake again, right? So now, why was that photo saved there? How was it saved there? And how did I get free storage to save that? We don't get anything free today. How was my storage free? Is even my dad's company? No, it is not. I wish it was, but it is not, right? So this is where data centers play a major role. What are data centers? Data centers are like basically very large servers that are built at very large scale. To reference, Amazon servers can fit like 500 football fields into it. Imagine you are a cloud engineer at Amazon server. Something goes wrong at the last point. You have to run from here to there, and you won't have to work out for a week, I guess. Don't worry, you can be an engineer. They have scooters for that. Don't worry about that, right? So data centers are like basically very large server, and they provide us with the cloud storage. These are the things that provides internet. They provide data to us, and they read our information, and they every processing is done here. Let us take an example. I guess every one of us use Google Photos, right? How much of storage are we provided in it?
15 GB.
15 GB. and 5 billion people are using that right now. And 5 into 15 multiplies 75 million terabytes of storage, and that converts to 75 billion gigabytes of storage. That's like a lot. 75 with 8 zeros following it, and that's a large number of storage that we are using it. And you can imagine how many hard disks or SSD we are using in there. But why should we choose cloud computing? Isn't physical server better than that? Because we have like everything with us, every access is with us. We can edit anything in there. But why should we use cloud computing actually? The number one reason: good privacy. Since you are not using our own physical server, but using servers of those perfectly built company, which has already been playing a kind of monopoly practice in the market, like Amazon, Google, IBM. These companies are providing with cloud storage to everyone, literally everyone. Like all of us use Google Chrome, Google Photos, WhatsApp, Facebook. All these are provided within these servers. Like even Amazon, even the Google servers. Sometimes some Google apps use servers of Amazon. So like you don't have to worry about the privacy in cloud systems, because like they are already so big and practicing monopoly practice in the market. They have cloud engineers there practicing there and seeing the privacy 24 hours and 7 days in a week. They are working for our privacy, like it's our privacy, and they were working for our privacy every day, every hour, every minute, and every single second, and it is optimized very well in the data centers or cloud servers. Better data backup. Okay, for this, like we need to understand some things better. Let us take an example. We have a physical server, and something goes wrong. Firstly, it will take a lot of time to find what actually is wrong. Because like the server address can be anything. Wires getting caught up, and we obviously live in Nepal, and we have a lot of rats in our house. That rat can got our wires. That can be a reason to getting the server failed. But when you finally find the error of the server, you will have to bring other people to manage that server, and they will check everything. And after the completion is done, after the server is maintained finally again, you need to bring software engineers there, because obviously you need to optimize your server according to the computers you use. So you have to optimize that again. So it already costs a lot of money and a lot of hard work, and your time is wasted basically. But when servers are but in data centers or cloud servers, you don't need to worry about that. Like chances are already very low, but if it happens, like it is quite fast, they recover very fast, and you don't have to bear any loss, or you have to bear a very small amount of loss. But to data centers or cloud servers, they use billions of dollars of loss, millions of dollars of loss. Let us take a reference. The most recent server accident was of the metaverse, Facebook or metaverse now. Though Facebook servers are actually the Amazon servers, they use server Amazon. Facebook don't have their own server till now. Like they have, but they don't use it for the apps we use. So like Facebook server was down for 6 hours straight, and they had to face a loss of $150 million. And Facebook shares price was so low that Zuckerberg, who is the CEO of Metaverse, had his net worth go below by $7 billion, and $7 billion is a lot. Cost effective. Obviously, cloud servers are very cheaper than the physical servers. Like I already gave an example at the very beginning. To establish a server in your company, to establish a physical server, you need a lot of money, lot of time, and lot of presence. And you need, like it's boring. Basically, physical server maintaining a physical server is boring. But when you use cloud servers, you just need to do one thing: open their argument page. You have to pay them, and within seconds, your cloud server is ready. So and it also costs like very low, like around $1,000 to $2,000. Your server is ready with you to run a company smoothly. But in physical servers, you would like it would cost very much, like hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions. The next point: unlimited storage capacity. When your storage is like filled with everything in the physical server, you need to add hard disks manually. Like you have to do everything manually. You have to bring people. You have to ask them to keep the hard disks and SSDs in there. And again, after the completion, you have to do the software optimization, because software optimization is more important than adding the hard disk, and SSD is in the phone. But in cloud servers, when a cloud server is done, you again have to do the same thing, paying some money to them, and you will be ready with the additional storage of the server within seconds. Again, the last point, good accessibility. For this, let us take an example. Let's suppose you are already married and you are in a vacation with your child and your wife. Yeah. So with your children and your wife, and all of a sudden you get a call from your office. Sir, we got a server error and we need the password. Say, will you travel thousands of miles after leaving the good vacation to your office for that basic error? Will you? No, right? So this is I like good accessibility. So good accessibility basically means that even when you are out, you can basically open your laptop, hit the password there, and you can do anything from there. Like anything, you can access your server from there. You can change your password from there, and you can do anything. And it's certain that if a thing has too many advantages, like it should have some disadvantages. Like let's call it limitations. Like things with what computers, cloud servers can do. The first point is internet connectivity. This is a point is like mostly targeted for the South Asian countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Sri Lanka, Maldives. Like these countries have internet blackout like most of the time. And the most important thing you need for a server is a good or active internet connection. And when we don't have that, our cloud server is of no use. You need a very active internet connection and very fast internet speed, and it's also paying the internet bill is like too expensive for the company. The second point, vendor lock-in, and this must be a new word for you. Like most of you must not know. Or does someone know this? No. Like I said, there are servers of different companies: Google, Amazon, IBM. These are providing with the cloud servers to us. And let us imagine I have a company and I want to collab with the company of a competitor, Abhinendra sir. So like he uses IBM cloud and I use Amazon cloud. So when we have to share data, it's a very boring task to unload and upload data manually. Like we have to manually keep all the exchange all the data. Like we have to take out, we have to take that in this, a lot of this, and again put it into his server. Like it's a boring task. So vendor logging is like the most biggest advantage of cloud computing system. The last one is limited control. Like I said, you use servers of other company, not your own company. So like you can do anything you want with the server. You have like very limited control. You can change the storage. You can change the logo of your company. You can change the organization of your web apps, but not everything. But when you have physical servers, like you can do anything with the server. That's yours, obviously. Now let us have a look at some facts about cloud computing. The first one is font type. So I'll read the one and let's read the zero together, okay? I'll read one and we will read zero together. This is how much cloud storage humans have been using currently. Let's read it together, okay? 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 GB. Did you guys have lunch? Talk a bit loud, yeah. Let's read this loudly, okay? That is
976532500000000
good. And that is how much cloud storage we have been using right now. That's a lot of numbers. Like, can you imagine that was a zero in a number? You can't, right? It's basically impossible. And there are other units, GB, TB, and there is petabyte. There is other bytes there too. I don't remember all. For every 600 smartphone and 120 tablet on new cloud service added. And if you take reference, like 7 billion people use, like there are more than 10 billion downloads of YouTube. And there are 10 billion downloads of YouTube, and just 600 smartphone is needed to add a new server. So that like we have a lot of servers spread in wide area. Like we can't count them. Basically, we can't count them. There are a lot. The last one is already familiar, as I already explained. Because one data center can fit 120 football fields in there. They are very large. Thank you guys. I was Sumit Yadav from class 11E and thank you for coping up with me.
Thank you so much, Swapnil, for such a talk. Finally, we have the last speaker of the day, Rita Agrawal, who will be speaking on the topic Internet of Things.
Okay, Google, tell me a joke.
Prepare to sew up your sides. Why can't elephants use computers? Because they're scared of the mouse.
So, where does this joke come from? And why am I talking about jokes? Because everyone loves jokes. And where are these jokes stored? As my friend already mentioned about servers, my friend has already mentioned about AIs, and many other things. So let me talk about Internet of Things. Before I move forward, let me show you a small video about AI, because that is important to understand Internet of Things. So here is the video. It's my video. And here you can see that whenever I move, my camera moves with myself. So you can see. So this is actually a video where a wide-angle camera is used, and the wide-angle camera is cropping me every time whenever I move. And let's move forward with something which is a Google Assistant, which most of the people have in their phone. How can I help you? A very, very important use of AI and Internet of Things. How many of you have Google Assistant in your phone? And how many of you actually use it? See? Most of you. And how many of you use Siri? Okay, there is one more, Cortana. How many of you use Cortana? Okay. So, Internet of Things have many implementations, and this is one of them. So, this was one of this. Tell me a joke. So, this joke came from the server, which was placed in the Google headquarters, and from there, this was stored, and that was recommended to me through artificial intelligence and machine learning, which was integrated in the Internet of Things. I'm using this word, Internet of Things, again and again. What is this Internet of Things? Anything that is connected to Internet in an interfering system is called Internet of Things. You know that Kevin Astonishing used this thing, Internet of Things, as a toaster. Very surprising, right? Toaster. And then, today, we are using it in many other forms. So, let's see some other things. AI. AI. Why AI? As my friend already mentioned about, you wake up in the morning and you want coffee. And then you say your assistant to make a coffee. And then your coffee is ready. You want hot water? You say your assistant to turn on the geyser. The hot water is ready. But why am I talking about this? So let's say about something called servers. So here is the server. Most of the data are stored in the server. And most of the data that IoT takes from us are stored in the server. Why did I use the word IoT takes from us? That is again a most important question. Anybody can answer this question? Okay. Right? So
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
I use the sentence that most of the data IoT takes from us is stored in the server.
I would like to answer it as like data is not something that should be taken from us. Like data is our personal property. We can have anything in that. Like we have our galleries in that, we have our photos in that, we have our videos in that, we have our office documents in that. So it should not be taken. It should be implemented actually.
Okay? But according to the most of the surveys, IoT has been taking our data. So let me show you something. Smartwatch. In the US, healthcare companies gift you a smartwatch every time. Healthcare companies and health insurance companies, most of them, gift you a smartwatch because they want to track your health. It might not be the best way, but they gift you. Because they want to track whether your health is fine or not. And this is why they see whether they have to give you the health insurance or not. And they are taking your data.